Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Fandom Flux podcast. You might have noticed that we actually have 3 episodes up. We're calling the first 2 test runs because they were kind of crappy. So, consider this the first episode. If you want to go back and listen to the other 2, then be my guest, but be prepared to listen to me talking about how I love Laura Bailey and Emma Watson for... It's really creepy. You probably don't want to listen to that. Anyway, it was pretty creepy.
It was.
Yeah.
He has witnesses, too.
Yeah, and more as soon as we release this. Anyway,
It's implying someone will actually watch this.
Yeah. With me are Ethan, a.k.a. Sergeant Baker.
Hey.
Justin, a.k.a. Sliciness.
Hello.
And Kryssa, I assume that's your real name, a.k.a. Kryssa's Flute.
Hi, guys.
Alrighty. So, Slicey, you want to start us off? Because your thing's first on my list.
Alright, yeah. A message to writers. If you send a chapter to your beta reader and it's 18 solid pages of unbroken text and then message to the beta reader again in 5 hours, don't expect him to be done with it. Ever. Nobody is that fast.
Sounds like someone's talking from experience.
Yes, I am. I'm not even hiding that fact.
That sounds like very good advice. I concur on that one.
Mm-hmm. Formatting, folks. It's important.
Mm-hmm.
This PSA brought to you by the Fandom Flux.
Sometimes you can't help it because people use different writing software and the formatting gets destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I see that sometimes. I mean, Ethan uses, I think must be Microsoft Office.
Something. I use like
I use OpenOffice. Damn it, every time, really? Every time. Yeah, I use OpenOffice, he uses Microsoft Office, and there's like some disconnect between it and it ends up like messing up with the paragraphing and stuff. It's a pain.
Yeah, that I'm used to.
I have to admit, it was kind of worse when I was first starting off because I actually had to use a Mac to begin with, and I had to like send it to people who were using Windows. So it basically every time we sent it back between each other, it showed up in our respective versions of Notepad, and it was a pain.
Yeah, Notepad's not the greatest either.
Not the greatest. Ended up in Notepad where it ends up like going 13 pages acrossways rather than going down.
Yeah, I actually remember I read like a fan fiction where the last 2 or maybe 4 more paragraphs were like straight sentences, no indentation whatsoever. So I just kept scrolling across the screen in irritation as I was like, when will it end?
Never.
No.
Boy, that sounds fun.
Day 3. I have still not reached the end of the paragraph. I am running low on resources.
Insanity.
Alright, so I guess that's the first topic down, and we're, like 3 minutes into this thing?
Yeah.
Sure.
We have 7 topics. This is going to be a short thing,
well,
I guess.
Anyone have anything they want to plug?
Not really.
Not at this time.
Sorry. It was a good effort, though. Alright, so second thing that we've got...
Like send a life preserver out to a drowning man and you miss him by about a mile.
Yep. Sure, I guess.
Not aiming.
I think just throw out there, but whatever. Okay, second thing on the list we've got... So, I had some problems writing a chapter last week. See, it was this, like, big, dramatic, sad scene. Someone's, expositing all of their horrible backstory and all the bad times that they had. And I was having trouble getting in the right mindset for it, I'd say.
Oh, yeah. Even before and during when you were writing it, you were really dreading that.
Yeah, it was like 2 to 3 weeks, and I just couldn't get in the right frame of mind to be like all depressed all the time. It's a bad time. Anyway, so
only Hot Topic understands me.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Oh gosh,
so I had this idea. Why don't I put together playlists? All of my sad, sappy music, and all of my, fight music, and all of my happy music, all in their own separate playlists, so it gets me in the right frame of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It works pretty damn well. Some might say a little bit too well. I was pretty damn depressed by the end of writing that chapter.
Oh my goodness. It's a hog.
You just can't win, can you?
Oh, I guess not. But it was successful, and I think the chapter came out well, so I thought, okay, I should probably bring this up and say, yeah, it works. So, maybe give it a try when you're having trouble getting the right mindset for writing your big, dramatic, and sad scenes and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You got to be really specific too when you're getting your specific emotions like sadness and anger and stuff. You got to be specific with those songs because sometimes they don't really convey the emotion you want.
Yeah, and it's a little bit distracting when the subject matter gets a little bit off base. Like you get songs about someone getting killed when you're talking about someone being kicked the shit out of as a kid.
It's especially hard if you're a ska fan.
It's not quite right.
It's especially hard if you're a ska fan because it's like all this really kind of disproportionately sad and kind of angry lyrics as opposed to this very upbeat tempo.
Mm-hmm.
Ska music is sad and shit. I didn't realize that at all.
Well, I mean,
the slightest.
Well, to give an example, there's this song by this band called Streetlight Manifesto called, let's see if I can remember the name, As the Footsteps Fade Away Forever, I believe. And it's about this son who finds out that his mom has cancer, and his mom kind of pushes herself away from her son so he won't be sad when she finally dies.
That's ridiculous and unrealistic.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's still pretty sad, though.
Yeah,
well,
that's kind of like...
It's meant to be overplayed. It's meant to be played up into sadness, but come on. Yeah. Really?
Yeah, that's the kind of romantic subplot you get in shitty romantic comedies where they go, oh, I hate you and stuff, and they don't really mean it, and they're all going to get back together at the end and everything.
No, I
don't know.
Actually, that's the Moulin Rouge thing that they did. That is exactly what they did.
Oh, yeah. I paid my whore.
Yeah, that. Well, kind of. It was actually the other way around with their roles. But yeah.
Good parents are rare, though. So, I mean, yeah, I can see that happening for some people.
Well, it depends on the age, too. Is she like an 89-year-old lady that's got breast cancer? Or is this like, the 22-year-old new mom who's got a 2-year-old at home and she's got, like, uterine cancer or leukemia?
Yeah, the first scenario you could see. The second scenario, not so much.
I think it was...
That'd be...
It wasn't very, like, very... It was
specific.
very... specific, sorry. But from the way I interpreted it, I did kind of feel it was the latter.
But then, if you're, like, a relatively young person, you wouldn't push a small child away. That's bordering child abuse right there.
Yeah.
I think it might have been an older child, though, like maybe late teens.
But
that's still a little bit fucked up.
Because teenagers
that's even worse.
How about this? You put the song in the description, and we can have our listeners fight it out for themselves.
I guess.
All right, sure.
I mean,
you want to write the title out?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you should probably tell me what that is so I know what to put in. Should also make a note of that.
I accidentally muted my mic. Sorry. Let's see here. Footsteps fade away.
Footsteps fade away. Okay, thank you.
All right. By Streetlight Manifesto.
Oh, that's a topic we could use. Do you guys speak out loud when you write?
Not really. The only reason I did it was so that way we wouldn't have some awkward silence.
I do.
But,
I go back and I reread, especially with dialogue. I go back and I reread it to myself and say, wow, this sounds really, really good. I like the kind of banter that goes back and forth, or say, wow, this is really, really stilted. They sound like they're cardboard. I got to fix this crap.
Yeah. Kind of go with reading emotion in stories. Do you guys ever have problems when they're like screaming or something? Like whenever they have do you have problems conveying something like that in your head?
Yes.
Yeah,
it always looks awkward if you actually try to write it out.
I know, because whenever I read it, for some reason my voice goes completely deadpan, and it's like,
yeah. Yeah.
Like, no matter the circumstance, be it like pleasure or pain, it's just,
You add a G to it to make it sound more guttural, and it doesn't work. It just makes it sound oh.
Well, part of it don't make it last for a single line. Like, sometimes people will type out, like, 36 A's, and you can get the idea after the first
Yeah,
three.
that just looks stupid and excessive,
Thank you, yes, exactly like that.
Maybe if they're falling, that could work.
So limit it and assume that people are going to know the feeling, because when you write, you're assuming your readers understand what you feel. In fact, that's part of what makes writing so enjoyable, is you're expressing something that people do understand. It doesn't matter what the context is, but most people get what it's like to have pleasure or pain or any variation of emotional spectrum. So you don't have to be overdosed on the expression of it, because people should get it.
Yeah, that's why if I'm doing something like that, I'll usually say they like cried out or like shouted or something like that, because I feel that tends to get the point across better, because it's left up to them how they interpret that.
Yeah, just trying to type out the exact sound that they're making doesn't work, so you're better off just describing generally what it is. It's a shout of, unbridled pain or something, I don't know.
Not only does it not work, but if you actually try it, it's really hard to do. If you tried to actually write out what noises you make, it's not always easy.
This is getting kind of awkward.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and if you're doing a sex scene, don't just do, like, 2 paragraphs of
Yeah.
Right. And
I wasn't going for sex, but okay, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to bring that up anyway.
Appointment right
regardless.
there.
You were going to bring that up anyway, were you?
Yeah, regardless.
Of course you were.
Yep.
If I could just go back for a second, just finish out my thing on putting music to, not putting music to things, writing to music.
Yep.
Oh, right, we were talking about that, weren't we?
We were a while ago, yeah. A couple of pointers. Rhythm is important in what music you use, as in, too much of it is a very bad thing. Because rhythm is the single greatest distraction that you'll have when writing. Because you'll start tapping your foot, you might start dancing in your chair, and you'll get distracted from what you're trying to write. What is technically the ideal would be classical or, classic style music, orchestral kind of thing, where there's not too heavy a rhythm. You won't notice it as much because there's almost no percussion.
I don't know if that would work as well either. Cause,
technically speaking, that is the best thing. But there's taste to take into account as well. If you're not a fan of classical music, it's not going to help inspire you or anything, is it? So, go with the genre that you like, but try to keep in mind how much you're going to be distracted by what's playing.
My main problem when I'm listening to music and I'm writing is that when I'm listening to music, it's pretty much an isolated thing with me. And when I tend to actually daydream about what I might think is happening as the music is playing. So if I'm writing and a song comes on, it's more just I have to fight over which one I'm more focused on.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to get your head around. Some people just aren't very good with separating the music from what they're doing. If that's the case, then sorry, I guess it's just not going to work, or you're going to have to really work at it to, separate them in your mind. But
I actually have a tip for that.
If you can manage it, then you're fine with it, I suppose. Yeah. So
really what I do is just I seclude myself in like the most isolated area of my house, and then make sure there's like nothing going on, no like outside exposure or interaction that will ruin my just kind of thought process.
Yeah, that's an easy thing to say when you're connected to the internet, mate. You've got every distraction in the world at your fingertips.
When I tend to write, I tend to get really invested, so it doesn't bother me as much.
The only time I've ever felt sad over fan fiction is actually when I've been writing it. Otherwise, I can't feel sadness from reading stuff.
It's only going to affect you that much if it's like the really, top quality stuff that you find like once in a blue moon.
I
suppose.
I don't think I've ever really felt any kind of true emotion over anything except for what I've been writing, because I have the emotions of the characters I want to convey, so it kind of resonates with me.
Yeah. I mean, if you're writing it, then you know it best, so you understand what the characters are going through, in a sense. So
excuse me.
Yeah.
Also, to bring it back to the music thing for a second, if you read and listen to music at the same time, it kind of helps you get into the swing of things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, if the mood's right.
Put the music in the background, but let it enhance the experience.
I've actually found it really helps me focus when I'm drawing, but nothing else.
Mm.
Yeah. Also, don't blast your music. Just have it on like a low volume, so it's just in the background. So it's just, behind your consciousness, as it were.
Yeah.
So
If I want to be all new agey with it.
I have a cheat that I use, which is soundtracks from movies sometimes can help. So one of the soundtracks I really like is the Dune soundtrack, because it's got a lot of variation in the kind of themes that it goes through. So it has its lively, like almost fight scenes kind of music in the beginning, more quieter, more introspective music later in the soundtrack. So this way, depending on what I want, I can go to that soundtrack and say, these are the songs I'm looking for through it. And because they're already preset, they have stories they're writing to. It makes it a little easier to find what you're going for because it's right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's also true in that, film soundtracks are often orchestral as well. So, it goes back to what I said about, rhythm being important and not having too much of it. But the thing is, if what you're writing about, I mean, this specifically works for fanfiction. It wouldn't work if you're writing something original so much. But if what you're writing has a soundtrack of its own, then that will be absolutely perfect for what mood you're trying to get, because this will be exactly picture perfect the scenario that you're trying to write.
If it's a canon event, anyway. Sometimes if it goes off canon, it doesn't fit so well, but yeah, definitely.
I suppose, but it'll still have the same feel, as it were.
Actually,
if it's a video game, it'll also remind you of how you felt when you were playing the game, too.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times that I wrote fight scenes in Face Every Shadow, where I was using the remix of the Boss soundtrack. That is an amazing piece of music.
It is, yeah.
It is really great.
Might have to send that to me so I have the right mindset when we start getting back to the actual Shadow stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we're getting there eventually.
Yeah.
Still loads of other social stuff to do.
Stay tuned.
Yay.
Thrilling.
Woo. Yeah, the next chapter should be up by the time we release this.
Yeah.
Just saying that.
I'm honestly surprised that Seta has not gotten fed up with just how everyone vents at him.
Yeah, he's just kind of a soundboard for everyone's feelings and shit.
That's his role, though. It's kind of hard to have him react when that's his canon role.
Plus, he gets free stuff, so...
There is that, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, because if he was an actual person, he'd probably have gotten fed up by now and just, decided, I want some me time, and left everyone alone for a month.
Or he's crazy, like in the anime. That was fun.
That was weird.
I thought that was hilarious, because that kind of reminds me, that kind of makes me think of how I might react if I was in that kind of scenario, just...
Anyway, next thing on the agenda. Kind of another one of mine, I guess. I got a weird review recently.
I love weird reviews. They're so much fun.
Just to be curious, was it one of my chapters or yours?
Not so much weird. It was one of mine. It was for Game of the Year.
Oh, okay.
Ah, yeah.
But,
So
that's a Harry Potter
I'm not entirely
story.
sure... I'm not sure how to put this. It's kind of like a backhanded compliment, except he didn't compliment me.
So just the back.
So, yeah, kind of. I mean, he's complaining about how I'm not updating enough, which isn't really a fair point. I'm not earning anything from doing this. So, go fuck yourself, dude.
All that sweet fanfiction.net monies.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Definitely.
I'm rolling in it.
Millions in that business right there.
Yeah,
rolling in it while I'm, picking up my job seeker's allowance. That's just great times. I'm loving life right now, I tell you. But, so, yeah, and then he proceeds to tell me that this story isn't that great, so,
then why are you
this
reading
shouldn't
it?
take you this long. Yeah. What? Why? If you want to be a dick, then be a dick, but don't just,
I could do it totally better, man. Have, blackjack and hookers and...
Yeah, I hate reviews like this, because they're just completely pointless, but they still get under your skin a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been this has been stuck in my head for a couple of days, and it's just like pointlessly backhanded and unpleasant, being entitled dipshit, complaining that someone isn't entertaining him enough for no money.
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of want to find out, like, you know, one of those guys complains, like, I could do better, so you click on his stuff to see what his material is, and it's just like...
He's got nothing.
No, it's just like the personification of art. It's just sheer beauty.
Right.
What?
That would be rare.
Yeah.
But then...
Oh, you mean like, so he's really good, and he's actually knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. Like,
I've never come up against that.
Wouldn't be a prick about it. Theoretically.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Someone who's that talented wouldn't be a prick about it. Theoretically.
Yeah.
I don't know, actually.
To give an example, there is Milt Kahl, one of the famous Disney animators, one of the 9 original men who formed Disney Animation Studios. He is very talented. If you look at some of his, just his pencil tests, he is very... He just has all these nuances that he thinks of. Like, say a man's putting on his coat, you'll see him, like, shuffle his hand around to get it in the right position through his sleeve.
Right.
But he'd do, like... But he was such an egotist. Like, he'd even call out Disney.
Oh, yeah.
And he let him because he was just that good.
You can't really, like, tell someone to go piss up a rope if they're actually genuinely know what they're talking about and are actually really that good.
And they are. And
in a more fan-fiction-related term, can I mention names? Is that fine?
I guess.
Yeah.
We can cut it out if we need to.
They're not really the person. I mean, we're mentioning...
It's a username, so...
I have this guy called Casey W, and...
My friend, Jordanio, he writes all kinds of great Pokemon fan fiction, but he is the most caustic person around. He writes infamous flames and stuff, but, I mean, he's never outright hateful about it. He's usually pretty constructive, but...
Never outright hateful, you say? I do remember that fucking shitstorm that you and he caused on that one dude's fucking story.
That was more of a reaction to
what happened. You
banning me kind of thing.
All right. I put an author note on Game of the Year about this, citing it specifically for how not to handle a flaming situation. Basically, Slicer found this story. I'd been reading it for a while beforehand, and he decided, okay, I kind of don't like this story. I am going to review it chapter by chapter by chapter, picking out all of the things I don't like about it. A couple of times, he got a bit too... What's the word? Is acerbic the right word? Acidic?
Yeah,
he got
sure.
a little bit vicious.
I want to stress that most of them were positive, or at least have some kind of positive element to them.
It was critical, for the most part. As in, he gave criticism, rather than just saying, this is shit, get rid of it. He actually picked out some points that he didn't like about it, some things that maybe he could improve on. Then Jordanio shows up.
The great Jordanio!
I don't even remember what he said. I
it was
think
a death
it was a
threat,
death
I believe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a death threat.
Those are always fun.
I didn't even tell him to do that either. He just did it.
He was just there. Slicer, again, in his ultimate wisdom, gets banned while he's in the middle of writing these reviews.
What for?
For writing these reviews.
Oh.
Yeah, just
he's banned,
writing them.
This writer has banned him from reviewing or sending him PMs because he got in a bit of a snit about it. Admittedly, he had a little bit of, like, the high ground because Slicer was being a little bit of a dick.
I was leaning towards more the flames at that point. Yeah, I wasn't happy.
At that point you were. So you were in a chat with someone and you said, hey, can I borrow your account so I can finish reviewing this story?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's blocked me for being kind of a dick.
There was like 4 people in the chat, I believe. Jordanio was one of them.
Yeah, so Jordanio decides to weigh in, if you might call it that, I suppose.
Round 1. Ding, ding.
Yeah,
in his Scottish wisdom, yeah.
That was a whole thing. But the guy's reaction, like I said, this is not how you handle a flaming situation.
Yeah. This is why I just...
Banning him was fine, I guess. It was extreme, but it was fine. Slicer was being excessive, I suppose, in reviewing every chapter and being negative in most of them. But writing another chapter that consists entirely of an author's note where he shits all over Slice's reputation.
Ooh.
Is a little uncalled for?
A little bit.
Yeah, just a smidge, you know?
It's a twitch.
I mean, it's kind of obsessive, but...
I got several
Like
messages for that, actually, just calling me a hate monger and stuff. Nobody actually bothered to read my reviews. They were still there. He didn't delete them.
Yeah.
I read the reviews because I know you. I know it was fucking weird that you would do something like this. But, so, like I said, I've been reading this story. Read this chapter, air quotes. Message Slice and ask, what the hell's going on? And he says, oh yeah, that was a mistake. I feel pretty bad about it. So I say, okay. I read through his reviews. Okay, most of these are critical. A couple of times he got a bit out of hand. So I write a review myself. Saying, okay, he got a bit out of hand. Here's maybe a nicer way of putting the things that he put.
He pretty much summed up everything I said, yeah.
Yeah. And here's an apology from Sliceness. I quoted it directly from what he said. It was pretty reasonable. He said, okay, I got a bit out of hand. I'm sorry. He ignores this, posts his next chapter, leaves the AN rant up, where he shits on Slice's reputation.
Yep. Still there, I believe.
Gives me shit for apologizing on his behalf. And okay, that's
Not very...
he's losing the moral high ground bit by bit.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a massive chunk, admittedly, when he decided to be a prat about it, but still. Okay, I review again. I say, alright, maybe you're taking it a bit too far by leaving that chapter up. If you could take it down, we'll leave it. We'll just be done. That's fine.
Just bury the hatchet.
And this never happened.
Yeah. And we won't care anymore. We'll leave you alone, if that's what you want. I go to submit the review. He's blocked me as well.
Yep.
For apologizing.
How could you do such a thing? Obviously it was the wrong thing to do.
The very picture of maturity there.
This reminds me of that Penny Arcade thing, like Gabriel's internet fuckwad theory thing.
Right.
So, yeah, I ended up doing a whole rant in one of my stories about how that's not how you handle flames at all.
Be careful, dude. He who fights monsters.
Lest you become one.
Yeah.
If you can, if they've signed into an account, message them, ask them to expand on their points. See if you can get some real criticism from it, if it's an actual flame. If they haven't given you actual criticism and just say it's shit, say, okay, why do you think it was shit? So I can improve.
I've actually had really good experiences doing that. Like, the authors messaged me about flames I've written, and 90% of the time, we always end it talking to each other civilly.
Yeah, a few times I've done it as well. I get reviews and I say, okay, what was the problem? Let me try and fix it.
And I think the thing to do is to not call them flames. There's a difference between straight up saying, lol, you suck balls, and saying, you have really good potential here. I'm seeing where your positives are. I'm seeing where your negatives are.
Yeah.
Let's discuss them like civil grown-ups. And
one's flames, one's...
That's a very different
one's constructive criticism. Yeah, that's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
I'm actually thinking about doing that with this one author I found who has these really interesting premises, but just bad conveyance.
Yeah.
Like a good example would be she's got, I don't know if it's a she or a he, so let's just say the author. The author has this one story where the idea is like it's a fantasy AU where one of the main characters, like their heritage is cursed to be blind for all of their lineacy, their heritage and such, until they find their true love. And that sounds really interesting. It's just that the writing's very meh, you know?
Yeah. I mean, people have ideas. They have ideas, and maybe they haven't written before. Like, they don't have much experience. fine, I guess.
That's part of growing as a writer, though. So you can't
Yeah.
always. You have to be careful what battles you fight, because some of it could just be somebody learning to write. And I remember being a very young writer and just learning how to write. So some of it is a little bit of how do I forgive them for just A, being young, or B, being inexperienced.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely anonymous as well, writing this stuff. I mean,
True, but I mean,
you
I've
could
seen
be.
I've seen multiple of the authors' stories where it's like that, like interesting premise, bad conveyance.
Yeah, I mean,
for people like
that,
I try to do my absolute best to suggest as many methods to use as possible without being even the slightest bit mean about it.
Yeah,
Because
me,
they're usually pretty sensitive.
For me, I was thinking about being kind of vague, just kind of maybe sending a PM saying, I really like your stuff, but I wish there was a better way you could put it down on paper. Could I possibly edit for you or something like that?
yeah, that's going above and beyond,
And you
I
have to
think.
be careful with making offers like that, because then people can construe it as, oh, well, you think that you can write my story better than me. So that's where...
That's true.
True.
Definitely, yeah.
True. Yeah, and that also kind of goes into the argument, where do you stop being an editor and write, you know? You kind of have to find that fine line between editor and writer.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's true, writers tend to be very thin-skinned, I guess.
We've got 4 of them.
But, yeah, but that's just because what we're writing, we tend to put ourselves into it. I mean, it sounds a little bit corny, but it's a little bit true. We put a lot of effort into it, and we put a lot of our own experiences into it, so it's very personal to us.
Mm-hmm.
So someone picking faults with it, it's hitting pretty close to home.
And part of
by
it is
default.
that people don't separate themselves from their writing. Just because you don't write a perfect story doesn't mean you're a bad person. And I think sometimes people make the mistake of thinking that being judged either for better or for worse on their writing reflects who they are as a person is not accurate, and people have to learn how to separate that you can make mistakes just like everybody else in, let's say, your work or your school, and that doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that you have room to grow.
Oh, definitely. They
True.
can take it really personally, yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking from a beta's perspective, it is really easy to accidentally slip into the co-writer's position if you are really enthusiastic about a story.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful about that too.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got lucky with Casey.
Yeah, you could just jump in as co-writer from the off rather than saying, "Oh, I'll edit for you." There was nothing to edit at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wasn't even writing the story at that point. I was this close to just saying, "Okay, I have to hand this off to someone else completely," because I just wasn't inspired by it anymore. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
just dropped off.
You really got the ideal position, though. I mean, you got somebody else to write it, and you still get director control or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lucky me.
Let me out of the basement.
Do you hear something?
Nope.
I hear someone not working on the next chapter.
Oh.
Yeah.
I had to feed off my own fingernails for sustenance.
Still not hearing it.
Yeah.
I'll get you a voice-activated, writing program. So you don't have to type anymore. Okay, shall we move on from my ranting about pricks?
Sure, let's kind of go for a more lighthearted note and let me tell my story, if you don't mind.
All right, your story.
Yeah, all right, so...
Not on the schedule, but we'll go for it. Go for it.
Whatever. A while back, I've kind of started running low on, shoes. They've become very worn, and I needed to get new ones. And I got these 2 different pairs of shoes, and while I was buying them, at the cash register, I kind of just had this thought, wouldn't it be funny if I wore one of these shoes on one foot and then the separate pair on another foot and see if people noticed? So I did that, and every time someone mentioned it, I would act like nothing was out of the ordinary. Dude, what's with your shoes? What are you talking about? Your shoes, they're a different color. They're my shoes. They're just shoes. Do you have a problem, sir? Are you okay? Your shoes are different colors, and sir, are you having a stroke? Do you need help? Just that kind of thing, back and forth. it was very
Sounds like
fun.
a nice human study kind of thing.
Yeah. And then
You're a strange person.
And then the next day, I wore the opposite. Like, I did a mirror of that, where I wore one on the one foot and one on the other.
Did those comments ever cut down as more people saw you, or?
They didn't notice. Like, the one time they noticed was when I was standing up and everyone else was sitting down.
Ah.
Yeah. And...
Okay, but how did you take the criticism?
What do you mean? Oh, they just wouldn't bring it up. Like, I'd just, like, joke about it, and eventually they would just die down because they'd just kind of accept it after a while.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a thing.
Yeah.
That was an interlude from... What the fuck is wrong with you, Ethan? Actually, yeah, we could call that we could call that a segment. What the fuck is wrong with you, Ethan? We're going to do that every week from now on.
My next plan is to stand in front of a random building and see how long the line I can make.
Yeah.
Or just stand at the doors.
Yeah. And then just walk away.
You do that, you get back to us next week, Ethan.
Yeah.
And that was your... What the fuck is wrong with you, Ethan? I don't even have to try to put, like, the emphasis on the line. It's just...
You're just a youngin', that's all.
God damn it.
I consider one of my biggest inspirations Andy Kaufman, so that should tell you something.
We know plenty, I think.
Yeah, I don't even know. I have to know who that is to know that what the... Anyway.
Okay, so that's everything that doesn't involve our trope stuff.
Yeah. God damn it, Ethan. All right.
It's funny because I've just gotten you aggravated from telling... I'm sorry, what, Kryssa?
That's going to be a running trope, is Casey constantly saying, God damn it, Ethan.
Yeah, that's going to be his catchphrase.
Oh, hey, I do have a quarter. Would you look at that? That was completely off topic, sorry.
Yeah. New Casey action figure with God damn it, Ethan action. Just pull cord.
God damn it, Ethan. Available now. 1999. Anyway.
And get free Ethan Dartboard.
I'm an expensive figure. I'm an expensive figure.
Yeah.
I'm premium.
Absolutely.
The Ethan one's kind of crap though. It's got like 50 things to say, but it's only like $5.99. They're all random as shit, you know.
Yeah. Yours has like special vision, like the $6 Million Man action figure. If you look through it, everything just turns really blurry.
Mm. Pull the cord on the Ethan doll. I pissed myself to see if anyone noticed. Okay. So this is a segment that we came up with on the second test run because we ran out of ideas on what to talk about. So what we did, Ethan came up with one topic that he wants to talk about. That's a trope from the website TV Tropes. Some of you may be familiar with it. But yeah, there's one that Ethan came up with, and then we just click the random button. There's a random button that takes you to a random trope page. And we did that for 3 different tropes, so that we have topics to discuss.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the one Ethan chose, which is Hide Your Lesbians. For those unfamiliar, that would be the trope in which stories, whether through adaptation or the original work, have decided that being lesbians is something that doesn't need to be seen by the audience.
Well, it's not necessarily...
So they obscure it.
It's not necessarily just a lesbian relationship. It's just homosexual relationships in general. It's just that Hide Your Lesbians was the one that... It's
the counterpart to Bury Your Gays, I imagine.
Yeah.
Where they kill off the homosexual characters.
Yeah, instead it's just more like fading it away as opposed to being destroyed completely.
Letting it sit over in the background where hopefully no one will notice it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing.
One of the... And to kind of give a few examples for anyone who is unfamiliar with this, think of Sailor Moon and how in the English version they made Haruka and Michiru cousins as opposed to an official couple in the anime, or in the Japanese original release.
Yeah, that might have made it a little bit more disturbing.
It did, because
They were pretty touchy-feely.
They were.
Is my understanding.
Even in the English one, where they were cousins.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah. It's kind of worse in like some of the other foreign dubs. Like in France, they made Haruka a boy who had to disguise himself for some arbitrary reason, and Michiru was just his, finger quotes, girlfriend to keep the disguise up.
Uh-huh.
That sounds overly complicated.
It
does,
is.
yeah.
And there were even like characters who wouldn't know that they were like cousins or a guy who would state it just to be like, "Here you go. Do you get it?"
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
I can't think of any more modern ones. So did they stop doing that in the Western market, or?
Well, I mean, it's just that I think what happened was distribution for Sailor Moon kind of just fell away after a while. So it's just like, if you want to watch that kind of stuff, go for the Japanese one.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't mean for
He
Sailor
means-
Moon specifically. I mean just
In
anything.
general.
Oh, in the originals Buffy stuff, when they first brought on the lesbian couple, the original studio was very strict about what they were allowed to do, and when they
eventually they kissed, and it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, and when they moved to a different channel, they got a little more touchy-feely.
Ah.
Interestingly enough, they were allowed to be quite intimate when it was a male character's fantasy that he might be included in a threesome.
Oh yeah. That's
I did
great.
watch that show at one point. It was a good show. But yeah, it's a weird thing that is falling by the wayside now,
Yeah.
which I'm glad of.
I don't know. I mean, I just find it kind of odd that it's a very interesting double standard. It's very odd that this sort of thing is prominent in media and pop culture.
Well, here's a question. Have you come across it in fan fiction, stuff you've read that you enjoyed except for this one thing coming out? Or do you think that it's more prominent just in the original, the original canon stuff that you're more against?
Actually,
I have.
it did.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, there was a Sailor Moon fanfiction I read, which was a one-shot, and it was about, for a little bit of clarification, in the manga and anime, Haruka is a pianist, is a talented pianist, and Michiru is a violinist. Not necessarily those are their main traits, but there's something they do, and in this one-shot, they were traveling to America to do a special
Concert?
Yeah, concert, sorry. I hate it when it's on the tip of my tongue. And it was for Valentine's thing, and Michiru got the pamphlet before the final night, and it said that they were cousins. So it was kind of touching upon what the English dub did, and kind of making fun of that.
Right.
Okay, so it's not really using the trope as it was intended. It's just making fun of it a little bit, a little send-off.
It was actually a very serious read on tolerance too, which I found very interesting. I just kind of want to ask this outright: is there anyone besides me who isn't heterosexual in this podcast? Is there anyone besides me?
Nope.
No, sorry. I thought it might be like bi for a while, but I was mistaken.
Okay.
Sorry. I like my penis, but I don't like anyone else's.
Right.
That's
That
enlightening.
was my discovery as well.
Thank God you have told us this.
Yeah.
It's important information everyone needs to know.
I find it funny how you complain to me for my non sequiturs, yet you're just as much as an offender.
You don't do it to be funny, you do it to be weird.
I stand by Casey in this one. His usually makes sense.
Yeah.
Alright. So, yeah. It does exist in fanfiction, but you don't see it as much.
Yeah, what is
I was reading, or actually I'm a beta reader for it, so it's Duel. It's all capital letters. It's a Harry Potter fanfiction.
Oh, yeah, you told me about that.
The idea was, it's kind of a joke about the marriage contracts kind of thing, and winning people in fights, or winning girls in fights. It's kind of a thing of that. And Hermione and Luna are both not part of that harem, so I suggested having them be together, since it seemed kind of like Hermione was starting to lean more towards lesbian kind of stuff. And the author was open to the idea, but he didn't want to alienate the readers, because apparently that would be... It's intolerance, I guess.
In fairness, I'm going to stop you there. If harem fics, you tend to see Hermione with Harry.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just throwing that out there, and people get a little bit touchy with. They get very touchy with shipping.
Yeah,
in the Harry Potter
I was actually about to complain about like being against a same-sex couple on a site that is pretty much the majority same-sex stories, but then I kind of realized, the couples thing would probably alienate the shippers above anything else.
That's probably bigger than hide your lesbians, because I feel like people will come up with more like gay and lesbian relationships despite canon, because they're like, oh, these are two hot characters, and what do we like better than seeing two hot people going at it together? Well, nothing. So that's actually where I see it is fandom.
How about more hot people going at it?
Exactly. So I feel like fandom actually tends to make quite an impressive deal over, getting lots and lots of people to interact in multiple ways, regardless of their sex.
Oron is a pretty
Kryssa,
good example of this.
Kryssa, you're becoming a little bit of a robot at the moment.
Yeah.
A little what?
A little bit of a robot.
Oh, sorry.
Oron is a very good example of this. Just seas of butt sex.
Right.
Vast oceans.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, it's like a 90% male cast.
Yeah.
True.
If my understanding is correct.
Pretty much, yeah.
So,
and one who's a cross-dresser, too, so that just adds to it.
Yeah. So, yeah. I've seen hide your lesbians in fan fiction, but there's always going to be people that have views that are out there, or, just against the norm, or against progression.
Yeah.
And they're always going to be there. You're going to see it sometimes. People are going to have their opinions, and they're going to write what they want to write.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really judge them for writing things, as long as it's not hate-filled, diatribes against this kind of stuff. You can't really fault them for it that much.
True.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually kind of writing a story about that. That's the one I'm going to be sending you, Kryssa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that
so
everything?
we're done?
Yeah, I guess so.
Are we done with that topic?
I guess so.
I believe so.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll move on to the second trope, which is the first of our random tropes. Cringe comedy. I am not a fan of this trope.
I love this trope, if you couldn't tell already.
It's the reason
Yeah.
I can't watch Watamoto.
Oh, I
I'm terrible
love
with secondhand embarrassment. I can't deal with it.
it. Hits too close to home for me as well, but I revel in that fact.
Ah, yeah.
I have no idea what that is, that show that you're talking about, but
Basically,
cringe comedy I can't do at all.
Think a slice of life anime if it focused on tropers.
Okay.
The awkward, shut-in kind of girl.
Yeah.
What is it called?
Watamoto.
I've not heard of it.
But the English name is It's Not My Fault That I'm Not Popular.
Yeah, that's it. I couldn't quite remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not a fan of cringe comedy. Whenever there's like a show or, whatever, and there's like a situation that, it's so embarrassing and stuff, I just can't handle it. I tend to change the channel or just turn it off.
I think one of the best examples from Watamoto is the scene where she's out in public and for some reason she's holding the box for a vibrator and like some kind of male harem game.
Right.
Okay. I'm not sure how that works, but sure, why not?
I mean, I'm sure it makes sense in context.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I can't really do with, like, embarrassing situations for comedy. It doesn't work for me.
I guess
it just makes me embarrassed to the person.
I guess for me, it's more the fact that I don't handle talking to people very well either, and just seeing that other people aren't alone in that kind of makes me feel a little better, or that I'm not alone in that just makes me feel a little better. You got to be able to laugh at yourself before you laugh at someone else.
I'm not sure that's necessarily completely true, but sure. Considering your stories from earlier, sure, why not?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's more just, if there's someone I know, I'll be able to talk with them freely. If it's a completely new group of people that I have no idea whether I'd be able to relate to them or not, I just shut down.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
But that's not necessarily cringe comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can give you an example of cringe comedy
All right.
in real life. I had a friend that was like you, Ethan. He was a little bit more extreme in his methods.
I didn't realize that was a possibility.
Yeah, we were in college, which is like, I suppose the last 2 years of high school for you was 16 to 18.
Actually, 18 above. Oh. Okay.
No, I was in college, which is 16 to 18 years old.
Okay, sorry.
Which is the last 2 years of high school for you, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry.
So, what this guy would do, a fella named James, he would decide one day, I'm just going to shout random noises in the middle of the street and see how many people look at me.
Yeah, I could never do something like that.
Yeah, he did that for a while. It was like a few weeks. Then he upped his game.
Oh, goodness.
We would be walking down the street, going to like McDonald's or something. There was a McDonald's like just down the street. I'll tell you what, I'll give you the supreme example. Coming back from McDonald's, going to college, going to our classroom, just like top floor, back end of the college. Walk past this girl.
Oh, God.
Oh, dear.
James has the bright, shining idea of shouting fat at the top of his lungs.
What?
Why?
You see,
because he's a twat.
You see, I would never do something like that. I would never go out of my way to try and hurt someone's feelings or make them feel less about themselves.
I don't think that's what he was doing. I think he was just a little bit wrong in the head.
Yeah.
But
was he vaguely trying to get attention?
He wasn't concerning her reaction. He was trying.
Yeah, he was a little bit of an attention seeker. He was very. I thought for a while that he was gay, but I think he was just very flamboyant because it would be attention grabbing.
Right.
Yeah. I know a friend like that. He's not all that cool, honestly.
Yeah. They tend not to be. But
so what happened?
She did not react very well,
Surprise.
as you might imagine.
Surprise.
Gee, I wonder why.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, this might actually be where it gets a little bit weirder. Her negative reaction was to start shouting at him, saying how much she diets and works out and all that stuff.
Ooh.
Then she starts stripping.
Wow, okay.
Huh.
Yeah, she took her jacket and then her shirt off and saying, "Look at me, do I look fat to you?"
Ooh.
Gesticulating towards her stomach, and she was pretty hot. But
Hey,
give her credit for it. She wasn't lying. She was not fat
win-win.
at all.
Win-win, man.
That's not a win-win because you see, James' attempt at getting attention. It was attention grabbing.
Oh, I'm sure.
For like 6 dudes.
Oh.
Who were not particularly happy about this girl being harassed by this guy and calling her fat.
Oh dear.
Ooh. Fun.
So, it was at this point where all of our other friends, the like 4 or 5 guys, decided to, well, just slyly go upstairs and just leave him to it.
Yeah.
So, there's James, there's this girl,
And there's you.
there's these 5 guys that kind of want to kick his head in at the moment, and then there's me. And I think, oh God, this is my best friend. Oh God, I have to save him.
What a
You
hero.
are a good person, aren't you?
Oh, I regret trying.
A good
sometimes.
soldier never leaves a man behind. Thankfully, I'm not a soldier.
Oh. So, yeah, there's me trying to calm the situation down, saying, oh, he's a bit wrong in the head, please forgive him. He's just trying to get attention. He didn't actually mean anything by it. He's very sorry, I promise. Even though I'll never say it because he's decided to be fucking mute all of a sudden.
He probably just realized how deep he was in.
Yeah, and you think, oh shit, what have I done? How do I get out of this situation?
Yeah.
So I drag him upstairs, and the situation's over.
Did you talk to him about it?
What the hell would I talk to him about? Don't shout fat at random people? I think he might have learned that lesson. Or maybe he didn't, because he did it again a couple of weeks later.
Oh, God.
Turns out the girl that he did it to actually ended up being his girlfriend, but that's a whole other thing.
Wow.
Yeah, opposites attract.
That doesn't really apply there, but thank you for the input. God damn it, Ethan.
Or now.
So, yeah, that's my cringe comedy story.
Yeah.
From my perspective, it was actually fun telling it, but, you know, I couldn't hear a story like that without leaving the room, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the benefit of writing it, I guess. That's one aspect
That's true.
of it.
Yeah.
It's something you can laugh about now, but other people hearing it for the first time are like, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I've probably got another one if you want to hear it.
Well, I think a good example of cringe comedy would probably be Tim and Eric.
I think I've seen a couple of their videos. That doesn't really stick in my mind, though.
I saw one episode and stopped watching it forever, ignoring its very existence.
Yeah, it's kind of like this intentionally low-budget, really bad, like, kind of old UHF-looking TV show, and it's divisive, I'll say that.
Divisive.
Divisive, yes.
Very nice.
Queen's English, Ethan.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about
No, that's fine.
that.
Have we worn this one to death? Please tell me yes. Please tell me yes.
I think we can move on.
Unless you want to hear my other story, then yeah.
No.
I kind of want to.
Cringe comedy,
I think-
man. Cringe comedy.
I think you've already heard it, Ethan.
They haven't.
This is the one about the African fellow.
Oh, yes, you have to tell this one.
Oh, God.
We have to.
Do we
Yes,
have
he does. Yes, he does.
I need to preface this story by saying I am not a racist.
All right.
Okay,
This is the best way to
back
introduce the
story
story.
going the wrong way.
This is the best way to introduce the story.
Okay, so I went to university a couple of years. I dropped out, but that's not important. I studied business and marketing. So there was this group of guys that I hung around with, a couple of Asian dudes. Asian as in Indian, Pakistani kind of Asian, not the other kind of Asian that you use it for.
Not.
Just definitions.
That's
Keep
not
going.
racist. I'm just defining.
Okay.
You know. So, a couple of Indian dudes and this black guy named Mikkel. Now, we were talking at the time. I think it was we were talking about management and how to run a business and stuff like that. And the topic swung around to like less ethical business practices, like you know,
Why?
underpaying workers and that kind of thing.
Sweatshops.
Mm-hmm.
Sweatshops, yes, that kind of thing. So,
It's really taking you a lot of energy to get this out.
I'm not proud of this story. You understand?
Maybe we should
But-
stop it.
It's
Actually,
No,
now I'm
it's all-
kind of
it's all right.
interested.
yeah.
Alright, so, we were talking about like different management styles and how this one's probably, you know, it's pretty wrong. But I have the bright idea of saying to this black guy, you know, I could see you in a sweatshop.
Nice.
Did you realize what you were saying when it came out of your mouth? Did you?
I didn't realize for a good 10 seconds until after I'd said it. What I'd meant to say was I could see you running a sweatshop.
Which
is
makes
just
it so much
bad.
better.
Is not at all better.
No, not really.
I came to realize a few minutes after the conversation was over and people had sort of walked away. So, yeah, we cleared the air eventually. That got pretty awkward there for a while.
Mm.
Yeah, and the Asian dudes were laughing, and I didn't understand why until it clicked in my head. And this black guy's just giving me this look like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I want to punch your face in so hard right now.
He starts tripping too for no apparent reason.
Should we move
So,
on
yeah,
now,
that-
or are you done?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I'm done. I'm not a racist.
Uh-huh.
That was just a poor
Choice of words.
judgment. It was poor judgment all around in that situation.
How old were you when this happened?
I was 19, I think. 19, 20.
All right. I was
Yeah.
going to say, if you're younger, I mean, you do a lot of stupid crap when you're a teenager, so...
Yeah.
Oh, yep. You have no idea. I mean, I live in, like, Stoke, which is a horrible, horrible place in England.
Mm.
Racism is common and pretty much accepted. It's a bad time for anyone that is not, white as the pure driven snow. Fortunately, I am literally as white as the pure driven snow.
Yeah.
But
if you look at his icon, yeah.
yeah, that avatar that I use is pretty much, me. But color and everything. But the thing is, we had this friend when I was in secondary school, high school, as it would be to you, who got nicknamed Turd.
Really?
Because he was brown.
Oh.
Yikes.
Classic.
Yeah.
Ow.
Casual racism. It was...
I mean,
Bad.
I like kind of sick, twisted humor, but there's a line.
Mm-hmm.
There's a line.
Yeah. Yeah, that story wasn't meant to be funny. That was just...
Yeah, I know, but it's just like... just the fact that kind of stuff still goes on and is tolerated.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, Stoke is probably a shithole in England. One of the worst ones. It was voted worst city for several years, as far as I'm aware.
See, that is one of a dozen stories I've been told about England, and I'm never, ever going over there. It sounds horrible.
I've heard...
There are better
I'm sure it
places.
has its good points, but I mean, it's just racism and gangs and a horrible school system and...
Birmingham, you don't want to go to. Stoke, you obviously don't want to go to, after the story I just told. Coventry is a pretty damn nice place. I will tell you that much.
Well, all right.
I love Coventry. It was where I went to university. Lady Godiva, you know that story?
Mm-hmm.
Woman riding through the streets naked. Yeah, that was Coventry.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a lovely place. I want to go back there. I really do.
I have to admit, hearing stories about, just negative stories is kind of the same reason I don't really want to go to Japan for all of the cool stuff it's got. It's got a lot of really bad stuff, too.
Yeah, and xenophobia is a little bit...
It's quite impressive.
Japan.
Yeah, there's also they have, they just, their age thing, which is pretty bad.
The what?
Age thing.
Their age of consent, which varies very frequently.
Oh, it's like 13 to 16 for 13 to 16-year-olds. That's not so bad.
Yeah, but there's loopholes that can make it a little younger, from what I've heard.
Okay, that's a
Don't
little
go over there with the intention to do anything with this 13 or 16.
What did you think I did?
Serious. Jesus.
16 might be the age of consent over here in England, but
yeah.
People were having sex at 12 and 13.
Yeah.
It's not a good scene, but
I think Ozzy Osbourne lost his virginity at 14, I think, from what his autobiography said, which I have.
Yeah. It's not that big a deal, as long as it's with other people around the same age.
Yeah.
Where did
No one
this
really cares.
conversation go wrong?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
if we're going to stick with it, really, really justify it, please.
Let's
Thanks for that, Ethan, bringing that up. You were the one that brought up sex.
Whatever. I don't care anymore.
God damn it, Ethan.
All right,
make that a
then.
catchphrase now. I like
we
that.
move on, or-
That's just going to be the name of this episode.
Or
Sure, why
many to
not?
come.
That works.
Or many to come.
All right, what's our next trope? Just we still have
cool versus awesome.
awesome.
Cool versus awesome.
It's so awesome.
It's so awesome. I'm so excited about this.
Well, I mean, have you heard about my OC? He's got striped red hair, and he's got all these cool eye colors, and he's got 3 eyes and 4 arms, and he's got all the superpowers.
And everyone loves him. Yeah.
You didn't do the list, Priscilla. I'm disappointed in you.
And his name is Darkness Shadow Mysterion the Third.
Right.
Did you just come up with that off the top of your head?
I
That's
think
pretty
he's
good.
pulling that one from My Immortal.
No, I just did that. I just did that.
It's
That's
not
even
hard to
worse.
come up with a terrible OC off the top of your head once you've been in the business
Yeah.
for a while.
You just gotta think of adjectives that scream. This is what a 13-year-old would think is cool.
Yeah.
Mm.
As for the only really example I can think of that trope would be most crossovers.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
usually, they have the image in mind when they start the story of just being awesome, but most of the time it doesn't really pan out. The specifics and particulars don't work right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get
I
to
feel-
And I've done a couple.
the concept of it being awesome that you don't work up the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, this is a cool thought, but you don't really work it up, so it
Yeah.
doesn't pay off.
I feel really good mecha anime is a good example of this because it's like this really cool, uniquely designed giant robot versus this really cool, uniquely designed giant robot.
Right.
We're going to combine.
Yeah.
That phrase is the epitome. Epitome. I keep getting that word wrong because I always read it. It's the epitome of this trope. Two mecha combining together to make one even bigger mecha, which is like super awesome. Kind of thing.
Which will fight the other mecha.
Yeah, and then you've got Gurren Lagann that does that like 60 times to the point where they have a galaxy-sized robot by the end of it. It's
throwing, galaxy.
It's awesome.
Yep.
It's fantastic.
I love that show.
But you're purposefully going over the edge with that one. I mean, there's no holding back in that scenario.
Dude, they renamed the trope so that way it was called Beyond the Impossible.
Yeah.
Did they?
I think so, yeah.
Go beyond the impossible and kick reason to the curb. But yeah.
I forget the rest of the quote. Shit.
Believe in me who believes in you. Who the hell do you think I am? Rog. Punch.
Right.
Let's see you grit those teeth. Invents teleportation, just punch someone in the face. That was fucking beautiful. I love that.
I have to admit, I didn't expect Yuri Lowenthal to be able to use his kind of whiny voice and make it kind of cool.
He was amazing in that role.
He was.
I love Yuri Lowenthal's voice.
Yeah.
Just as a whole, I think he's an amazing voice actor.
Yeah.
But he nailed that role.
He did.
He really did.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got kind of a whiny voice, and I could see how that might
He does, but that's perfect for the unlikely hero kind of thing.
Yeah. It is, yeah.
Trope.
Have you guys seen the Gurren Lagann satire or whatever it is? It's the abridged series, but they don't want to call it the abridged series.
Oh, no. I thought you were talking about that webcomic that turned it into a buddy cop show.
Oh, that was good too.
It was.
No. K something? No, it was KK or something.
Anyway,
don't add another K, please.
That scene right before Kamina dies where he punches Simo and he's like, "Let's see you grit those teeth," and he delivers that line just perfectly in that, and it's great.
I love Yuri Lowenthal.
Yeah,
I know. We know.
I love Laura Bailey more, but god damn it.
You're gonna bring that up again, aren't you?
Yeah, let's not.
No.
Let's leave that in the past.
Yeah.
Let's leave the past in the past.
Yeah.
Let Ethan be the creepy one this episode.
we pass it around like a ball. Hot potato, creepy guy,
Hat. We need a really big hat.
No one would see it, though.
Whatever. We'd see it. That's all that matters.
Okay.
We got any more to talk about for Cool vs. Awesome?
Dragon Ball Z.
Right.
I didn't watch it. Does that count?
Well, I mean, just look at all of the big muscly men fighting big muscly aliens and then escalating their forms into even bigger, more muscular forms and then duking it out and making planets explode and implode and all kinds of plodes.
Okay. I guess. I mean, I suppose the original Dragon Ball was like just a regular, let's search for these magical items. Woo!
Yeah, then they injected it with testosterone.
Then there was aliens.
The original Dragon Ball is the only one that actually made sense because they keep saying one race is the most powerful in the universe and then another race more powerful comes in. And it's like, were you lying before or did you just not know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the Saiyans and then there was Frieza who was somehow like 10 billion times more powerful or something.
Yeah.
It was weird.
And another good...
I didn't like that show. There's no characterization at all.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The abridged series is really good, though.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The TFS one?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I don't really watch abridged series much.
You should watch this one.
Watch it.
If there's one you should pick out, it's this one.
Yeah, I mean, I watched One Piece one. It got took down by YouTube, but it wasn't that great anyway.
Was it Nun Piece?
I love that.
Don't think so.
You should check out that one, too.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. I don't know. It wasn't great.
And to kind of focus this topic on the fan fiction, I always like it to kind of cite In the Circle of Elemental Arms once again. Sorry, it's one of my favorites. I always like magic to magic combat. I always think that's a good example of cool versus awesome because it's like, I shoot lightning. Hey, guy who shoots fire, let's duke it out. And they do.
Do you have any idea how hard it is to write elemental fights?
Yeah, because you got to work out
true,
which one
actually.
beats which one.
That is
Yeah.
a very, very visual medium, and it doesn't translate well to writing. A lot of things don't, actually.
Oh, yeah, that's true too. Hadn't thought about that.
I remember I've actually kind of like storyboarded most of the introduction to the fight scene, or the introductory fight scene from Circle.
Oh, you've storyboarded it? Yay!
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, like, there's like parkour in it and stuff.
That makes it a lot
And
of fun.
then he jumped. There you go.
Yeah. I don't know. I always think parkour kind of adds an interesting aspect to combat.
It does, definitely, but
It's very hard to
again,
translate.
it's hard to it's hard to explain. In
A lot
way
of
that
fight
would-
scenes are difficult to
yeah.
a lot of fight scenes are difficult to explain, like through written words
Well, I mean,
rather than
it's almost
pictures.
like it's almost like some kind of stone guy explaining it to you. So then there was this guy, and he had this fist, and it was on fire, and then he was like, and then he was flying, and then everyone was in the sky, and it was awesome, man.
You're right, it does sound like you're stoned.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Like right now, it sounds like you're actually stoned.
Oh.
I'm not sure anyone actually writes like that, though. Just
You would be surprised.
Yeah.
well, yeah, some people write like that, but I'm not anyone I'm going to read.
Oh. Yeah.
But yeah, fight scenes are hard to convey through written words. But yeah, Cool vs. Awesome Fairly English Story was a massive use of this trope. Because elements of all sorts of stuff got thrown in that one.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yep. Doctor Who references. There was one point where a persona was... No, it was a shadow that was taking on the properties of the Gurren Lagann robot.
Yeah. That should just be required reading for anybody that's even remotely interested in Persona.
Well, I mean, we're going to have a
Yeah.
giant robot, aren't we?
Are we? Oh, yes, we are. Yes. Don't spoil that.
I won't. I'm just saying we're going to have one.
Spoilers.
Anyway, so yeah, it takes on the properties of Gurren Lagann, and then the Minato gets the Giga Drill Breaker attack, and he uses it to open the top level of the Tartarus dungeon, because fuck waiting, kind of thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I can totally see him, like, the loading screen pops up, and then you just see him drilling through the loading screen.
No, because like the top level of the dungeon is like blocked off. You can't go and fight the final boss until such and such a date, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Very arbitrary, yes.
Yeah. So he just says fuck that and drills through it. Shreds his arm, his bone disappears, and he heals it after because fucking Persona, you can do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do kind of admit, if there's one thing I don't really like about Persona 3, it was, and I do have a few other things, but this is a major one, I didn't kind of like the gameplay and story segregation.
Yeah, the gameplay was all just like in that one space, and you could climb the tower, and that's about it. It was very samey.
And if you didn't grind, you were fucked. Like,
oh, definitely,
if you didn't put time aside to be like, okay, so I'm going to go to Tartarus this night and get to Tartarus this night and beat the shit out of this many enemies, and you do that, you're just screwed for the whole game.
You had to go fight as long as you could, too. I mean, you couldn't just fight a little bit every night, because then you get sick, and yeah.
Yeah.
General rule of thumb, I think, was if you beat the last boss in the Tartarus before the barrier, then you could carry on doing whatever the hell else you wanted to do, I guess. But yeah, if I can be bothered to pronounce Minato right, then you can pronounce Tartarus rather than Tartarus or whatever the hell you were saying.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Yeah. Fuck you too. So are we done with Cool vs. Awesome, I guess?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Kryssa. We just sort of went on our own thing
That's
there.
okay.
For a
I
while.
don't mind. We've got our different fandoms, so no biggie.
Yeah. We got moving the goalposts.
Moving the goalposts.
That actually...
Let's talk about something else
that.
before we start talking about, like, Persona again for the next 3 hours.
All right.
Kryssa, you got any examples of this? Moving the goalposts?
I mean, there's always the really, really obvious manga that keep going on, Naruto and Bleach, that never, ever stop.
And Mario.
Yeah.
I think Bleach was the bigger...
it was the bigger one.
Yeah, it was the one that
I mean, it always had an overarching thing. I mean, first it was Aizen, and then it was... I mean, there were different goalposts, but Naruto had
starting
more.
to pull stuff out of their collective asses, basically. It's getting tiring, and it continues to build up. Like, he continues to be a cooler character, except you're just tired with it. So you keep moving these goalposts back in the sense that Ichigo still needs more and more cool powers, and he's the only one who can have them. And so I'm really tired of him being our special snowflake. It's
right.
Admittedly,
Pokemon's like that. It's in the theme. He's got to be the very best.
Hold on. Pokemon's a terrible example of this.
Thank you.
But in Bleach, I've got to give them credit. Generally speaking, Ichigo doesn't save the day so much.
I'll accept that. Yeah.
I will too. Yeah.
I haven't read very far in it or at all, so I can't.
The very end of the Aizen conflict is pretty much the only example of when he actually comes in and saves the day.
By himself.
I think every other time, it's other people that have to step in and stop things from, going terribly, terribly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely a driving force behind it, but that's really the only time I can remember where he alone is the only one that really solves all the problems.
Oh, and Ginjo, the substitute thing, but no one really cares about that because it was shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that weird little interlude. But that's my point is that you kind of end up getting these things, and so then you start writing a story and you're trying to keep up with what's going on, and because that's continually moving the goalposts back, now you've got to keep moving your own story back, and you're just like, well, where are we going?
Yeah.
That's an example there. After Aizen, they had nothing left to extend the story.
That's why I always like kind of giving a vague outline of what I want to do with the story I write, because then you have how you want to end it and some of the stuff in between, so that way you don't have to pause and go, what next?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that myself. I'll be honest, that was probably one of the main reasons that I got bored with writing Face Every Shadow.
Yeah.
Because I knew how it was going to end. I knew how it had to end, even, because, Sam Jazz already wrote that. And I knew all of the major beats of the story that I was going to write out.
You got bored.
I can relate to that. Yeah, I have
As far as I was concerned, I had already written the story. I didn't really want to spend hours upon hours upon hours upon hours writing it again.
Yeah.
It's just how it went. I like having the feeling that this story could go anywhere, I could take it anywhere at any time.
Mm-hmm.
I like that openness. I like that.
It has its benefits because it's more interesting, but it can fall
more
apart
interesting for the writer,
easily.
but it's
if
harder
if
for
you
the
do
reader,
it for too long, you kind of turn into the Metal Gear Solid games.
And that reference went right over my head.
Mine too.
The story's a bit too esoteric for my taste, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's pretty much like he kind of planned out the first game, and then people wanted more games, so he had to make more games to satisfy them, but they kept wanting more, so he had to
Solid wasn't the first game.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I mean, the first one that people cared about.
Oh, that's not fair. If there's sequels to a game, it means people wanted to play it.
Right.
Well, I meant the one that, exploded,
I guess. I mean, I'll agree with you that Solid was pretty tightly wrapped together. The story was well told, it was cohesive, it was a whole story, and it was all pretty self-contained, really. And then 2 happened, and we have Raiden, who was...
Naked.
I wasn't going to say naked, but that too.
But now he's got a cool sword and a talking robot buddy.
Everyone
how
should
did
have
that
a talking
happen?
robot buddy.
Actually, scratch that. I don't want to know how that happened. I don't really care. Because that story went so far off the rails.
I'll just tell you this, defeat means friendship.
Sure, why not? If 2 had been a whole cohesive story and didn't go into this weird metaphysical pseudo-political bullshit at the end of it,
which Raiden does as well, or Rising does as well.
Yeah, if it hadn't have done that, I'd have still been on board for the series. Unfortunately, they did that, and it lost me immediately. I didn't even play 3, and 3 was supposedly the best one in the series.
I remember I tried watching a Let's Play of Metal Gear Solid 4, and about 4 to 5 videos in, I was just like, I can't. This is too much bullshit to handle at one time.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Yeah.
surprisingly, it being a game is helpful in telling the story in that regard, because if you were just watching it, you would say, fuck this noise, like, almost immediately.
That's kind of one of my main things with Heavy Rain. It's like, when are we going to do something?
Yeah. I mean, games, you put up with more in the story because you're engaged as the player.
Yeah.
Right.
And Heavy Rain
Yes.
does that none at all. Does not do
The
that
only
at
reason
all.
I was able to watch the Let's Play for Heavy Rain is because it was the two best friends, and they're hilarious.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
so-
I would not have been able to get through that entire thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's also kind of if you looked at Indigo Prophecy, it was really hilariously stupid. I think that one I could probably play on my own just because of how dumb it is.
Yeah. Probably. To see the spectacle of it all, yeah.
Yeah.
We are... I think we're pretty close to wrapping it up here.
Yeah.
Been over an hour.
Yeah.
It's been a good one.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
we all had
yeah.
some laughs. We had some cries. We had some moments we don't want to bring up ever again.
Yes.
But
Not
now
racist.
they're forever on the internet, so they will be brought up again.
Yeah, especially if we actually get listeners, and we... You know some of these are going to be memes.
Maybe.
God damn it,
I'm hoping
Ethan.
not.
I really wish I could put that on a shirt, but of course people would call me out on it. Just having,
What, for having your own name on a shirt?
no, just having "God damn it" on a shirt.
Oh, yeah, you live in, like, the South and shit.
Yeah, I live in
so-
South Carolina.
Put electrical tape over the swear word. That's what I had to do at a bowling tournament once.
What were you
Well,
wearing?
so he says, God, Ethan.
Yeah.
So now I have a Messiah complex. Great, that just makes it all the better. All right. Have you stopped recording yet?
We gotta
No,
say bye.
no, I haven't stopped recording yet. I think we
Happens
actually
if
should
you
end the
like that.
podcast before we stop recording.
Okay.
Pillock.
You gonna end it or what? I mean, sheesh.
So this was the first/third/first/third episode of the Fandom Flux podcast. Thank you for listening.
Thank you
Thank you.
for having me here.
We really
I
appreciate
need
it.
a drink. God damn it, Ethan.